Hey guys, it is Adam with Digital AI Magic. We are a digital marketing company and AI automation agency, and what we do is we help people automate their life and their business. There's a lot of different things that we do, but today I wanted to talk about sales. So I had like a really interesting experience over the weekend regarding sales, and I thought it could be of value. So I was at the local home show. So it's at a convention center not too far from me, and they had maybe 200 booths or that sort of thing. And so it's your typical stuff. It's lots of people selling mattresses, hot tubs, roofing, windows, doors, plumbing, carpeting, all that type of stuff. And it's a great place to pick up business cards and potentially gain some business for what we do with our AI automations and making inbound or outbound calls, stuff like that. But of course, also digital marketing as well. These guys need to get their names out there and keep it in keep their reputation well. These are some of the big top plumbers and HVAC in Atlanta, so it's a big deal. But sometimes they have other booths there. So because it's a home show, as I was walking around, there are some booths that were selling pillows, like with like Georgia Bulldogs or just some of the sports teams, things like that. So there's some general kind of home stuff. And as I'm walking around, I see a bunch of people standing on these like skateboard types of things. And this reminded me that I believe it was like July 4th. I was over at a friend's house, and his wife, I believe she bought one of these boards that you stand on it and it vibrates. And so it like helps you lose weight. I never actually watched them do anything with it, but this is the basic understanding of how it works. So when I came around one of the aisles, I saw that there were a bunch of people standing on these and trying to lose some weight. So it was like, I walked over and asked them a little bit more about it, and they were just like, "Hey, just jump on it." So went and stood on this thing and started vibrating and really, really shaking. Actually, um, nearly immediately, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. Or maybe that's a little too much, but anyway, so just the guy's like, these are great. They help you lose a lot of weight. Um, and he's like, let me know if you have any questions. I'm like, how long should I stand on here for? And they're like, well, typically people do about a 10-minute exercise. So I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting on there for a minute or two, and this little blonde lady comes over and says hi, and we start talking. And so she asked me a couple of questions, like, what are my goals? What am I trying to do? And so, I told her I was trying to lose weight and that sort of thing. And so she's like, cool. And so what she was able to do, she had a remote. And so she like clicked on the remote, and on the thing or on the display, it said that basically in about 2 or 3 minutes, I had lost about 22 calories. Well, that's pretty quick for just standing on there and not having to do any other, exercise. In fact, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but even if it was 1 minute that I lost 22 calories, like I would be more than happy sitting there for like 30 minutes. But it's vibrating really, really fast, and it's a little jarring, just because I'm not used to that. So when she's asking these questions, I'm kind of a little bit in this other, it's a little bit hard to concentrate. I think is the best way to say it. But so one of the things that she mentioned is that this board that I'm standing on is $1,500, and that they're doing a show special where you can get it for 1,250. Now, to me, I know that my friend bought one on Amazon for probably $100 to $200. I doubt she would have spent much more than that. And so I know that there's other options available. Now, again, this seemed like really well put together. This is probably more for like in maybe not in a gym, but maybe like a rehab facility or maybe at a chiropractor or something like that. And so she told me the price, and I was just like blown out of the sky because again, I knew my friend got it on Amazon, and so I was like, oh, it's like wow, that's a lot. And like I could see kind of like the color in her face kind of drained, and she kind of got a little upset. And she actually used the remote and she turned off the machine that I was standing on. So when I gave her a bit of pushback, her response was to turn off the machine. I guess she thought, well, I'm not going to buy this, so I guess I don't get to use it. And so I thought that this was something I wanted to talk about because I felt like this was a huge mistake. Now, I'm not saying that I would have actually bought it because, well, I wouldn't have, but the fact that she didn't give other opportunities, she immediately heard the no, and clearly she wasn't a trained salesperson. She was just like, oh, well, then you're not going to get to use it because I didn't like your answer. And I really feel like I hope nobody else is doing this. You always have to, have some pushback, ask some questions. It's okay to challenge people. And I think that, that's something that's really important that we should be doing more of. And so, immediately after she turned it off, so now standing on this thing, and she's, I guess, upset. Or just, she's like, okay, well, I guess it's not a sale, so you don't get to use it. So I stepped off and I pretty quickly just like left. I was like really kind of like, you're not even going to try and push back or do anything. And I think that's really what's important. One of my favorite movies is The Princess Bride. And, you've got that one scene where they're doing the drinking of the iocane powder. And in that scene, one of the things that I forgot the names of the characters. I know there's Wesley. I forgot the name of the other gentleman. But one of the things that he says is that, you never take the first offer, or you never take what's given to you. And so, like, she didn't even push back. I guess maybe she didn't have any sort of thing, but she could, have started doing things like, okay, well, if you're trying to lose weight, what's the value in that? How much time would you save by doing this for 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week in your own home versus going to the gym and doing all sorts of stuff? And so she never pressed on it and she never pushed. And I feel like that was just like an incredible mistake. In fact, it reminds me, I was talking to one of our clients, and recently we got we do a lot of outbound AI calls or we help our clients with their outbound AI calling. And we had one of them where apparently a guy got a couple of phone calls and he felt like it was a little bit too frequent. I think we had called 2 or 3 times in a day, and that was what it was set to. This is what the client wanted. And so this person called the client to say that they had a problem with it. Well, you know what the client did was they were able to sell them on what they do. I don't want to get anything further into that, but so by and I'm not saying that this is the right way to do things, but they wound up, this guy called in and he was upset and he was like, hey, take me off the list. And they're like, well, hey, tell us a little bit more what's wrong. And so they wound up talking to him and they were able to get a sale. And I feel like that happened so often. People are so quick to just shut people down and be like, oh, well, you don't want to buy it. And, they don't work for it. And sometimes, you have to. Unfortunately, not all, deals are just like, oh, here you go, here's a pen, sign it. And that happens. Sometimes you have to work for it. And so, with this guy that was calling in, he was already upset. He was in the wrong mindset. He definitely wasn't looking to buy when he originally called in to them. And they were able to turn it into an amazing call. And this guy did a big deal with them. Don't want to say further than that. There's another story that I heard of this other guy. Actually, it's a relative, and he was doing outbound calls, and they were selling like some of these timeshare products or things. So you pay a couple $100, you get like a cruise, and but of course you get the high pressure sales for like an hour or two to buy a timeshare. And so this guy, that he was working for one of these companies, and again, I think this is pretty interesting. So he got a call, and it was from apparently a father. So apparently his daughter got sold on a package, and this guy, I guess, he got the credit card bill. And it was for like $400 or $500, and he's like, tell me about this. What is this? He was like, oh, well, he went and looked it up. He was like, well, looks like this was your daughter that bought this, package where she gets a trip to, the Bahamas or whatever the case may be for 3 or 4 days. She gets a couple $100 gift card, and then, she's got to do, and then she also gets like another like free trip somewhere, but she'll have to go through the 2 hour sort of thing. And he's like, well, I didn't approve of this, so I want you to take this off. And he's like, oh, well, sorry to hear that. We are more than happy to help out and make sure that everything's put into the correct place. So after you testify against your daughter for using her credit card illegally, we'll be happy to take that off. And of course, he doesn't want to do it, but technically it's fraud. Or it could potentially be fraud. I don't want to get into legalities, but so this person wound up actually selling the father on a deal as well, because he listened and he talked and he treated the person like a real person. And so like, never give up, don't stop. when they tell you to stop, that's when you stop. Otherwise, just keep going, keep pushing, and it's tough. We all know this, and that's just kind of part of life, and then part of sales, and running your own business. For those who are doing that versus others who are just doing marketing and helping others. But so I thought that these were just like there's some value in this. So don't give up. Always push back. Try and figure something out. Have your rebuttals ready for you. You know, um, and in fact, I just got done reading some of the Alex Hormozy stuff, and he always has 2 to 3 rebuttals for each and every different thing that someone's going to have a problem with. So, okay, this is a price issue. So, how do we deal with that? Okay, well, is there a way to do a downsell and sell it for X amount up front and then X amount over the course of months, or was there different ways that they could have done things? And so that's all that I'm saying is that there's a lot of different ways to kind of skin a cat. There's different ways to sell people, but you got to try. You can't just take the first no and just stop there. So that's all that I was really trying to say today. I hope that these stories kind of helped. I know they've been good for me and helped me to keep moving forward. And again, just being prepared. Have your rebuttals. Have them already. Know what's going to happen so that it's almost like muscle memory. Like, oh, this was an issue, it was a customer service issue. Okay, we're sorry. We can help it fix it like this. Oh, it's financing. Okay, no problem. What if you paid over 6 months? And maybe it was a little bit more, but that was kind of the interest. And like, why don't they have an idea like that? Coming out of the gate, it's trying to sell even at $1,250 for this board that you stand on that vibrates. It's kind of a tall ask, I think. Now, again, for my brother's a chiropractor, I think this would be great, like in his location. And it seems like it's durable enough where, it can have, people on it for, multiple hours a day. But, that was just my interpretation. Anyway, again, Adam with Digital AI Magic. If you guys have any topics that you want to talk about, please let me know. Again, we're going to be putting out content hopefully 2 to 3 times a week. Hopefully start maybe doing some interviews. Got some people that could be fun. And if you have any questions about some of the AI stuff that we're doing or the digital marketing, please let me know. Have a great day, guys. Take care.